the Red Zone channel, and I expected more out of the Terps, quite frankly, in Bloomington, Indiana, than we got on Saturday, and giving up a lot of points and losing a key ball game. But they're back after it this week, and we're all waiting on the Ravens and the Steelers on Sunday. This guy spends every Sunday with the Detroit Lions, and he will be doing that again this weekend as well. They are buying out after this week, and they're going to be playing the Minnesota Vikings, but he will be at the Big House as he has been for many, many years. You can follow his journey out on Twitter for all things Wolverines and Lions in the great state of Michigan. Jim Brandstatter, our guest. It is Brandyman Can on Twitter. What's going on? Happy fall to you out there in the great state of Michigan.
Thanks very much, Nestor. It's good to be with you. And what's going on? Good things in Ann Arbor, and kind of disappointing up and down things in Detroit at Ford Field.
Yeah, well, let's start with the Wolverines. We're not expecting much this week, Jimmy. We're 30-point underdog as I see it, and certainly this is where the Terps feel like they're getting overwhelmed, and I think there's a great storyline here with Durkin and with Harbaugh and how quickly he turned things around in Michigan to how quickly Durkin can make things better in Maryland in weeks like this. We got you guys this week, Ohio State the following week, and then we go out to Nebraska the week after that. Welcome to the Big Ten, and this is where the lifting gets a little heavier for the Terps.
Yeah, it does indeed, and those are three quality teams that Maryland's got to play. And yeah, I know Michigan, Jim really likes DJ a lot. We talked about it last night, this week on our show. Jim really likes DJ Durkin. He enjoys his company. He thought he was a great coach. He's an intense guy. He loves the job he's doing at Maryland, and really, it's like anywhere else. You got to have players. Those players have to stay healthy. I think the loss of Likely really hurts Maryland. But overall, I think he's doing a good job. He'll be tested in the next 3 weeks big time to kind of see where he measures Maryland against the elite in the Big Ten.
Well, part of it is, we beat Purdue by, 50 points. You guys beat Rutgers by 78. Then you see Michigan State. Maryland beats Michigan State. And, I'll be the first one to say, when that came out on the schedule, I'm looking at that saying, well, that's going to be a rough one. Maryland against Michigan State. Based on where they were last year, Maryland winds up winning the game. And really, it was a bit of a struggle. And I know that that's a very special thing out in East Lansing as well.
Oh, there's no question. Michigan beating Michigan State. It's a rivalry game. It's a game that they haven't won. They've lost 7 of the last 8 and 3 in a row. And so Michigan going into East Lansing and getting a victory, whether it's by 7 or whether it's by 77, it's a big thing for Michigan because it gets them off the schneid. Kind of puts the world back right if you're a Wolverine fan. and from Jim Harbaugh's perspective, it's his first win in 2 years in one of those 2 big rivalry games that he has each year against Michigan State and Ohio State.
The guy asks you this all the time, and we're further into this, and, I've known Jim Harbaugh for 20 years, longer than I've known his brother, and it was funny seeing him in the Cubs hat there because I know what a huge Indians fan his father is. So, there was a whole father-son, thing going on there, despite Jack wearing all that Michigan stuff the other night at Wrigley Field. But, for him to turn this thing around, I remember when he wanted to be a coach, and he went out to San Diego, and he called my show from there. Next thing you know, he winds up at Stanford, and he's winning games, and he's in the league, and he's in the Super Bowl, and then he pops up at Michigan, and, that's a tough gig, right? They wanted him, they put it all, but to think that it could get turned around, that they could win a national championship, and they're on a pace to be able to do that right now, again, Durkin learned from seeing that there in the hopes that Maryland can become competitive here, but, did you always see this as like he could turn it this quickly? Because you've been there since the last time he was there, Jimmy.
Right. I didn't think he'd turn it this quickly, but I knew he'd turn it around. Where has he not been successful as a coach? Everywhere he's been, he's won games. And whether it was at San Diego, whether it was up there at Stanford, and then he went to San Francisco. And the San Francisco thing, when he was on the outs at San Francisco, that, in my opinion, wasn't because of his coaching. It was because he and the front office got into an argument about the operation of the team. And it was the egos of billionaires making decisions they aren't qualified to make. And they got rid of a great coach. And from Michigan's perspective, he was choice A, B, and C on the list. And they went and got him, and Jim came home, and he walked into and I'll give this guy credit, Brady Hoke, because Jim walked into a talented football team. Jabril Peppers, Chris Wormley, Mike McCray, Glasgow, Taco Charlton, Wilton Spate, Davion Smith, J.U. Chesson, Amar Darbo. Those guys were all recruited by Brady Hoke. And what it takes is a staff. And what Jim does best, and I think comes from his experience in his days with Bo Schembechler and just knowing coaching, being around his dad, he hires and gets the best quality staff he can. Because think about it. The same guys that played on the 5-7 team 2 years ago are now unbeaten. And Jim Harbaugh is 18-3 in 2 years with those same basic players. And I think that it's his staff is the only thing. Jim Harbaugh and his staff is the only difference. And I think that speaks volumes about Jim and his coaching ability and the quality of his staff he hires.
For you, in seeing the recruitment and the way he's worked these off seasons, I mean, Jim, he came in here 5 months ago in a Cal Ripken throwback jersey over at Patterson Park with his brother and, just sort of walked in and brought Michigan football and the Harbaugh family name with it and threw a flag down in the ground and is changing, really kind of rocking a lot of boats, quite frankly, changing the way business is being done at that level.
Well, the thing is, he's doing nothing illegal. And Jim understands, give him all the credit in the world for understanding right now he's got a lot of juice. Jim Harbaugh is a very popular name. And if you are a brand like Apple, if you're a brand, you're going to take advantage of this opportunity when you're riding high. And Jim Harbaugh is doing that. He's outworking everybody. He is going to satellite camps all summer long. He's getting the Michigan name out there. He's letting kids who are outstanding players know that if you come to Michigan, you're going to excel and you're going to get great press coverage so that ultimately you could move up into the next level of football and you're going to be taken seriously because we produce players at the next level who actually get paid to play. I think that Jim does that, and he brings Michigan's brand into it, and I think it's all over the country now. He's playing all this great success to his advantage, and why wouldn't you?
Thanksgiving weekend's going to be huge. I know you got 3 games, and, I could sit here and pretend, Jim, that, Maryland, they give you reasons how Maryland's going to compete, but I sort of watched the run defense last week, so I'm very worried about the Terps this week. You guys go to Iowa the week after that, then Indiana, where Maryland just got beat, and then the Ohio State game. You pointed out that the rivalry game is everything, but this is everything in that you're trying to get to Alabama in the end to win a national championship, and that really would be something. I mean, it would turn college football on its ear. I think a Saban Harbaugh final like that.
I think there's no question about it. It'd be as big as a John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh Super Bowl, which I think it would be that big. And I think the thing you got to do, and I think Jim understands this. Now that that's out there, that possibility exists, that we're not, the national championship, the Final Four, that's really out there, which I think at the beginning of the season nobody thought was going to be out there. But now that that's out there, every game, including Maryland, including Iowa, becomes vital and very, very important because you can't stumble. And if you look ahead to Ohio State, you can get knocked off at Iowa. I mean, look what happened to Ohio State at Penn State.
Hey, last weekend, there were a lot of broken dreams and hurt feelings last weekend if you watch college football. I mean, a lot of teams thought they had an easier road than they had, and some of them survived. I mean, Cincinnati being one of them, Louisville being one of them. But, yeah, I mean, it can be treacherous, right? I mean, Alabama always stubs their toe at Ole Miss or someplace, right?
Right, well, and Nestor, it's just like you said. This is now, for teams that are thinking about it, the playoffs. They can't afford a loss now. This is where you play your way in. And so every game gets more important, and you can't stub your toe. And if you don't learn from history, which is looking at this past weekend or looking at the Ohio State-Penn State game, then you're actually bound to repeat it. So Michigan, I think, and Jim understands this, and I think Jim has taken every game very seriously. So Maryland's going to get their best shot. And to be quite frank, their performance against Michigan State, which was not their best, I think got their attention, and I think that they're going to be focused as they go down the stretch.
He is the longtime radio analyst for the Detroit Lions, as well as the play-by-play man for the University of Michigan in Big Blue. He will be there calling all the action of Wolverines and Terrapins and Durkins and Harbaughs on Saturday, and you can follow him at BrandyManCan out on Twitter. He is Jim Brandstatter. Always a pleasure to have him back on. Let's get to the NFL side. We were at Buffalo Wild Wings and Owings Mills on Monday night, Jimmy, and watching that Chicago-Minnesota. Just when you think the Vikings, right, have turned a corner, PU, they stink, and the Lions have been a Jekyll and Hyde operation, quite frankly, ever since Schwartzy got there, let alone left, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've been up and down. Matthew Stafford's been consistently very good. I give him credit. I mean, they've ridden his shoulders for the 3 wins at home. He brought them all back. All 4 wins, he brought them back late to win games. I mean, he's been outstanding. But defensively, I mean, they let Houston run the ball. I mean, Houston's not a team that can run. And, yeah, I watched the same thing Monday night, and I couldn't believe Minnesota looked that bad. Now, when Detroit goes up there, you think, hey, maybe they got a shot, because Minnesota did not look very good offensively for sure. And defensively, the Bears took it to them. So, it's hard to read this league 1 week to the next, because the Lions didn't look very good against Houston. And they've got to shore up their defense against the run. I mean, opponent quarterbacks against the Lions, their average over 8 games, their average quarterback rating is like 117. I mean, it's mind-blowing the great games every quarterback they've played has had against them. And that defense has to do a better job of getting after the passer. Simple as that, and stopping the run if the Lions are going to be anything close to a contender.
I hear people talking about the declining ratings and people aren't watching the game. One of the things we got going on, and even here in Baltimore, we've lost for a month now. We've lost 4 in a row, but we have a chance to be in first place by sunset on Sunday by beating the Steelers, which they're favored to do at home, where we definitely have a healthy quarterback and they might not. We're trying to get players back, but it really is a league where sort of everybody's 4-4. Anybody can beat anybody except for the Patriots, of course. They're at a different level. But I don't know whether that breeds interest, and I guess we'll find that out when everybody's 6-6 after Thanksgiving, and whether that's interesting to people or not. Maybe it's not interesting now, though.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be interesting, but it gets interesting later in the season when you got 8 teams vying for 2 playoff spots. Then there's something you can sell. The other thing I think that's hurting the league, to be quite frank, there are so many penalties being thrown that there's no flow to any football game that I've watched, or every other game. You look at it, and you can't get a feel or a flow for the game because, man, you gain 10 and you go back 15. And it just seems to me that the penalty flags, and I'm not saying they're not wrong. I'm not saying that the penalties aren't correct. I'm just saying that the league has to look at that and say, you know what? Our product, in my opinion, is being diminished a little bit because of the lack of entertainment value in games that, what was it, the other night somebody had 23 penalties? I mean, it was just crazy. You can't do that, and I think sell an entertaining product. So that's part of the mix. But I agree with you. Everybody in the end of the season, there's going to be a lot of teams up and available to get in and sneak in and get to a playoff spot. If that's the case, then maybe the league's doing it right. I don't know.
Well, recommend something about the Lions not named Matthew Stafford right now. We're not going to see them. What's going on with them that's good right now? I mean, our old pal Haloti not out there. We got Brandon Copeland, local boy, done good, who's my Facebook buddy. We got some connections out there with Caldwell.
What's good is, I would say right now, the fact that you've got Theo Riddick, Notre Dame kid, kind of coming out and becoming, I think, a pretty big superstar in this league as a real versatile back. He's a third down back, but he can also run the football. I think Theo has really established himself. He had career highs, I think, in yards and catches this past week in Houston. I think he's a story. But other than that, I think Ziggy Ansah's a story, but he hasn't played well enough. I think Devin Taylor's a good story. But, again, the defense has given up too many yards. Right now, the thing I'd hang my hat on, other than Matthew, is the fact that they've really done a nice job with the running back, Theo Riddick from Notre Dame. He's emerging. But, they're 4-4. what is it Parcells once said? Parcells said, you are what you are, and if you're 4-4, you're just kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, and we're 3-4 trying to figure out our way. Jim Brandstatter joining us here from the great state of Michigan, where the Wolverines will be hosting the Terrapins. He'll be on the call there. You can follow him at BrandyManCan out on Twitter. All right, bottom line, they're going to win a national championship here. I mean, do you expect to be doing a call on that game in early January?
You know what? I'm old school. I'm a dinosaur. I was a player under Bo Shem back there, and when I get that question, and we are at the point where we are right now, you know, the most important game on the schedule is Maryland, and I don't look ahead, and I don't want to be talking about what's going to happen in January until I take care of what happens in October.
You got high hopes, as Bruce Springsteen once said.
I got high hopes.
Absolutely.
But what's right now most important to me is what's going to happen in early November.
Hey, listen, if you see Jimmy this week, tell him to not be so hard on his dad. You know, I mean, his dad's been waiting 50 years for the Indians to be worth a damn, to be sitting there with a Cubs hat on when he's front running. I mean, just tell him to give his dad some love. His dad's trying to win a championship for the Indians.
Oh, hey,
man.
His mom and his dad, they're both big Indians fans. Are you kidding? But,
you know,
hey, nobody ever said Jim didn't walk to a different drummer. And he's the most competitive, one of the most competitive guys I know. So even when it comes to his dad, believe me, if he's wearing an Indian hat, Jimmy's going to wear a Cubs hat if that's who he's rooting for.
Hey, you know what? And I know the family well enough, and I'll give you this story, and I told this to John at the Combine. He loved it. Last year on the 30-30 tour, my wife and I went to 30 ballparks in 30 days. We had a great time up at Comerica, by the way, on a Sunday afternoon, and we have actually played a little ball at Tiger Stadium out on the field because the field's
cool.
still there.
Glad you got over there.
My wife pitched to me. I hit a single. We got it on video. She called it a ground out. I said it depended on, whether Brooks was playing third or whether it was Mike Pagliarulo or something. So, on the tour, we got to Milwaukee, and John texted me and said, my dad's in Milwaukee. They're selling the house. They're moving to Ann Arbor with my brother, but he's still in Milwaukee. He wants to go to the game with you. So Jack Harbaugh comes down to Miller Park with my wife and I, and he's wearing a Raven black, like a little windbreaker. It was a Saturday afternoon, and he was wearing a black and purple Raven windbreaker, and we had our pink shirts on for our Give a Spit campaign, and the Brewers gave us these lovely seats in the club level right behind home plate, about the third row, and we had a couple of older ladies sitting next to us, all head to toe in Brewers gear. Yeah, Brewer bags and pins, and they love Paul Molitor and Robin Yount and all that stuff. And Jack sits down, and he's making friends with them because he's never met a stranger, and the older ladies, and they were a little older than Jack. I mean, these ladies were in their late 70s, maybe early 80s, but they were still very with it. They said to Jack, why are you wearing that Raven gear? And he said, well, have you heard of the Harbaugh boys? That's pretty good, Jack. And they're like, oh, yeah, the two coaches. I mean, the one seems like such a nice, good-looking fella. The other one, I don't care much for him.
That's pretty good.
So Jack plays her for an inning, and the first thing Jack deadpans, he elbows me and my wife, and he says, what is it that you don't like about him? And they carried on for 2 minutes. Oh, he's rude.
I'm surprised it wasn't 2 innings.
He's rude. He's caustic. He's in that commercial now. He doesn't smile. I don't like him at all. And then Jack says, I'm Jack Harbaugh. That's my son. And we wound up eating popcorn, having hot dogs with these ladies, and we had fun. But I know one thing. Jack Harbaugh loves the Cleveland Indians, and he went on and on about how much he loved the Cleveland Indians. So it has been a joy to watch that. But I thought it was just like the son to be, giving Dad a hard time wearing that Cubs hat.
Yeah, well, you know what he went to Halloween dressed as?
Bartman?
He went as the guy, Michael Douglas's character in Falling Down.
Really?
Yeah, he'd get dressed up in a short-sleeve white shirt and a tie, and he's wearing his new glasses that looked just exactly what Michael Douglas wore, and walked around with all the kids and Sarah in the offices on Sunday, and all of them went to everybody's office, and all of them got candy. And Jim was that character of Michael Douglas. He's a delightful guy. You got to get to know him.
Oh, I do know him, and I found him to be delightful. People ask me about him. My favorite story is one night we went to see Hootie and the Blowfish on the second floor of the Bayou, and this is when he's the quarterback of the Ravens, and there was a woman who had a leg that was in like a cast, and she couldn't get up the stairs, and he literally went down, picked her up, and carried her up 20 stairs to get her to the second floor, and I'm like, not everybody would do that. Jim Harbaugh's a good man.
Yeah, it's like the first year he got the job. In the wintertime, he's out recruiting. Somebody in a car ran off the road in front of them on I-94 near Ann Arbor. He stopped with his buddy Jim Minnick, and they went over and helped the lady out of the car and waited till the ambulance come, and they got her in the ambulance, and they took off. He just did that because he was there and felt it was the right thing to do.
That's what his father taught him to do. So I have immense respect for Jim, and I think it is kind of, people ask me about him, and I'm like, if you really know him, part of the press conferences is sort of like a shtick. I don't. It's not an attractive shtick because he's really kind of not like that. You know, he's a likable guy. If you know.
You're right. Let's put it this way: when he's talking football, he's not going to give the other guy any help at all. And he thinks, I think sometimes press conferences, they want him to ask him, you know, what plays you're going to run, or who are you going to play this week, or who's going to be a quarterback. And Jim looks at that as kind of a thing where I'm giving away information. And being competitive as he is, he's just not going to go there.
So is his brother, right? Yeah, his brother does not like those tactical questions during the week either.
Yeah, he just kind of shuts it down. And you know, that's the way he is. If you can't get him engaged, then that's your problem, not his.
Jimmy, great having you on. We got you engaged. We'll be watching. I still don't know how you do this every weekend, back and forth. I mean, have you come close to missing a flight yet, or you're doing well?
I've been very, very lucky. I've been late to a couple of games, but 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Weather, one time, a mechanical problem on an airplane another time, but other than that, I've been very, very lucky over the past 30 years.
Well, we're going to knock on wood for you. Keep it going. Keep the streak alive. We'll see you soon. We'll see you on Saturday.
Okay, bye-bye.
You got it. Jim Brandstad of the Brandy Man Can on Twitter, the radio analyst for the Detroit Lions, as well as the radio play-by-play man of Michigan football for many, many years. Brandy Man Can, that's Brandy, like what you drink, or Brandy, you're a fine girl. Brandy Man Can. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. The morning newspaper delivers to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. That is powered up by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in shape there. Last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis is here on Thursday. He'll drive you home from 3 until 5 and get you ready for the weekend. And Stillers and Ravens, and the Ravens a favorite. And Ben Roethlisberger's going to play. Hopefully our full complement of players get right. You'll find out first on the tech service if that is the case. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as on our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.